Hello and welcome to the only show on WTOP 10 that has been verified by ESPN, Laker Connections, your home for all things Laker sports. I'm Aaron Valentino.
And I'm Brian Rudman. Will, the old saying is if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So we'll start this week the way we always do with This Week in Laker Sports. Aaron and I take you through all the action from the last 7 days. Aaron, let's get this party started.
Yes, let's do it. A very heavy women's lacrosse show today, and that is exactly where we will start. The Oswego State women's lacrosse team was able to get a W over Fredonia this past week, by a final score of 19-4. And once again, the first story is not in the teleprompter, even though we checked it so many times. Brian, how are the Lakers able to get this done?
Oh, well, it was a 19-4 win, and well, Fredonia, their goose was cooked right from the get-go.
I mean, my saying.
I did take your saying. I'm sorry. It was 2-2 at the start, and then a 10-0 run from the first quarter to the third quarter really got the job done. I mean, just taking control. Same thing that we saw last year. Sela Wiley, 5 goals, 1 assist. Shea McConnell, 5 goals, 1 assist. When you get that type of production, there's not much else that you can ask for from this team. This is a game that they knew they should win, they were expected to win, and they took care of business.
Yeah, this is exactly how Brittany Howard and her squad wanted to start SUNYAC play. A dominant win where everybody all the way around was doing extremely well and doing a lot of things correctly. Another great performance by Sela Wiley. We're going to get to her in just a couple minutes, but she had 5 goals overall, and just a great win. 5 goals from Shea McConnell as well, and 6 different Lakers overall were able to score in this one. Sarah Kamid going 8 for 12 with a 66% save percentage, and you know, when you play as many non-conference games as they did to start the year, and they got off to a little bit of a slow start, to come in, to get your first SUNYAC win under your belt, and a dominant one at that by a final score of 19-4, I mean, overall, just a good win for the Lakers. They did a lot of things right in this one.
Yeah, can't ask for much more in the SUNYAC opener. We move on. For both of their great performances last week, each of the lacrosse teams had an Athlete of the Week for Oswego State. Sela Wiley took home the honors for the women's team, and Weston Gray for the men's. Gray had 5 goals and 6 points against Utica, and Wiley 9 total points in the games against Nazareth and Fredonia. Aaron, great performances by both.
Yeah, 2 great performances by 2 lacrosse teams that were rolling this week. Let's start with Sela Wiley. Just overall, a great performance for her with 9 points over the course of the 2 days in her first SUNYAC win, and overall, the women's lacrosse team playing extremely well so far this year in that right. And Weston Gray as well with his performance with 6 points against Utica. The Lakers, they are rolling to start the year, this men's lacrosse team. They've got a couple of good wins under their belt, and now this week they're heading into SUNYAC play. Weston Gray is going to be a big part of that.
Absolutely. You take a look at what both of these athletes did this week. I mean, these are the 2 that each of these teams turn to when they need a big goal. Sela Wiley for the women's team and Weston Gray for the men's team. I mean, watching that men's game last week, Weston Gray, he was on absolute fire. He had a hat trick in the first quarter, which is just, I mean, within 5 minutes, if you have 3 goals up on the scoreboard, that's pretty darn impressive. And Sela Wiley, 9 points over 2 games, excuse me. I mean, unbelievably skilled there.
Yeah, and you know, the funny thing about this is last year when we were talking about these 2 teams, these 2 players were the bright spots for both of their squads when it came to scoring. And once again, they are doing the exact same thing. They're doing the exact same thing that they did last year, this year, and taking home Athlete of the Week honors this week. And now with SUNYAC play starting up, both squads are going to need both of these players to step up in big-time ways and keep doing what they're doing, because again, now that SUNYAC play is starting up, this is where the real season begins. And both of these teams, the goal every single year for every Laker squad, whether it's lacrosse, baseball, hockey, basketball, is to win a SUNYAC championship. And you got to score to win. That's one of our famous sayings on the show.
Absolutely. You got to score to win. And for Weston Gray in particular, when you bring in a new head coach like the men's team with Sean Eccles, the last thing you need is your star player who you were expecting to score to get off to a slow start. Weston Gray has absolutely not done that. He's been on fire to start the year.
Absolutely. Well, that is going to do it for right now. But coming up after the break, I'll sit down with Oswego State women's lacrosse player and female athlete of the week, Sela Wiley. Don't go anywhere. You're watching Laker Connections on WTOP 10.
Athletics. Aaron, there were 6 big points. This is the one you've been waiting for. This group has never beaten Cortland.
Getting started with some men's soccer as the Lakers had 2 conference matchups.
For half of the Lakers' goals this entire season.
Offense is key. You talked all about scoring goals.
Welcome to Understood.org, a free online resource for parents of kids with learning and attention issues, with personalized recommendations, tools, and daily access to experts to help your child thrive. Understood.org, because understanding is everything.
Hello and welcome back to Laker Connections on WTOP 10. I'm now joined by Athlete of the Week and Oswego State women's lacrosse captain, Selah Wiley. Selah, thank you for joining us today. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. I'm good. Excited to have you here. So let's get right into things here. So you've established yourself as a dominant force on this Lakers squad. You're constantly leading the team in goals every single game. You're second on the team in goals right now. What is your mindset when you step on the field, and in particular, when you have the ball on your stick?
I feel like at this point we kind of know what we have to do. Everyone knows their role on the field. So like when I get the ball, I know what I have to do, whether it's on the defensive end or the attacking end. We're just trying to like finish these plays that we've been working on. So.
Yeah, and you know, scoring is a big part of lacrosse. You guys were able to do that against Fredonia this week, and you've been such a big part of that. And you've been able to produce at such a high level this year. And during your short time here, you've had 2 shortened season, and now this is your first regular season here. You've been able to produce at a very high level. I actually talked to you last year, and you said a couple different schools were recruiting you. Why did you decide to choose Oswego?
When I came, I really liked the head coach, Britt Howard. She's still here. And then I liked the players that I met my freshman year. There was, I think, 8 seniors that left, so I met them all when I did my overnight, and I really liked them, and I thought I'd fit in well with like their team culture they'd established.
Well, you've been fitting in very well. We've talked a couple of times already how you've been producing at such a high level. And another one of your teammates that's been doing well this season is Julia Quirk, and you two lead the team in scoring. It seems like you two are constantly working the ball to each other. Is that something you guys are working on in practice? The offense running through you and Julia, or is it just something that's been happening so far through the first couple games this season?
We found that it started working. Julia was more of a defender last year, so putting her on the midfield line kind of changed our attack this year. We found that we like worked well together from the top, so once we found that like we were working better together than we were with other people, we kind of put in plays that put us more together.
You gotta score to win, and you guys have been doing that so far this year. So switching gears here a little bit, this is really your first normal season in an Oswego State uniform. Your freshman year, the season was what, 4 games, 4 or 5 games, and then last year it was a very weird schedule. You had the divisions between the East and West of SUNYAC. You didn't play that many out-of-conference games. This year, it's a normal season. It's a normal length. You're playing a good amount of out-of-conference games. Now SUNYAC play is starting up. What is the biggest difference you've seen so far, this season, just it being a regular season, and what's the biggest difference in the team you've seen so far this year?
I think schedule-wise, we've just been playing a lot better teams. Like last year, we played Fredonia and Buffalo State twice, and like that's not comparable to the competition we're seeing now. We're playing much better teams out of conference. So I think that's been big for us, just realizing that like there are other good teams around the area that aren't in our conference. And I think for our team, we brought in a really good freshman class, and we're finally clicking on the things that like we weren't necessarily working well with last year.
Now, you guys have such a young team, and you started off a little slow. I think everybody on the team would say that. You're 2-6 to start the year, but you get your first SUNYAC win against Fredonia this week, and a dominant one at that, a final score of 19-4. How do you turn this season around, building off that win and taking steps towards the SUNYAC championship?
I think that going into that game, we kind of knew we could win, but we also knew that they're not a bad team, but they're not one of the better ones we're going to play. So I think it's good for our confidence to start with a team that like we did so well against. We had so many different people scoring and doing things that we hadn't done before. So I think that's big for our confidence going into the rest of the conference games.
And now moving from Fredonia, you guys now play Oneonta this coming weekend. What's going to be, what is as the captain, what is the key in that one to defeating Oneonta and getting your second SUNYAC win of the year?
I think that we found that if we play together and we play the way that we practice, we'll be fine. We play really well when we play together, so I think that finding those connections and working off of them is like what we need to do.
And, now switching gears back to you a little bit, you've been playing lacrosse for a while. Did you have a role model growing up? Was there anybody that inspired you to play lacrosse as a kid?
I started kind of late. I started like the end of my elementary school time. So just watching my older sister pick it up even later than I did, and then she went on to play in college as well, was like what I wanted to do.
And you've enjoyed it so far, obviously. You've had a lot of success. And as the captain and a junior on this team, who are some of the younger players that you've loved watching and loved playing with so far this year?
Definitely Julia and Shay. They've both been doing really well. And then this year, Sophie Russian, she's a freshman. She's doing great. She's going to continue to do well as a midfielder.
And last question for you, kind of a fun one here. We always ask it on our interviews. What is your go-to pre-game hype-up song?
Probably Super Gremlin by Kodak Black.
That is a good choice. Well, we want to thank Sela for joining the show today, and we are going to take a quick break on Laker Connections, but don't go anywhere. So when we come back, Brian will join me back at the desk, and we'll talk about the week ahead for Laker sports. You're watching Laker Connections on WTOP 10.
The central and midwestern U.S. averages more than 850 tornadoes each year, and lately, the number of floods has been rising in the region too. So chances are, there will be more twisters and floods near here again. And between school, sports, and social lives, chances are, you won't be with your kids when it happens. Will they know what to do? Ready.gov/kids has all the educational tools and information to make the conversation easy. When the time comes, chances are they'll feel prepared, not scared. So talk with your family today.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move. So I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
Welcome back. We have already discussed the past for Laker sports. Now let's discuss the future and the week ahead for Oswego State Athletics. Brian, why don't you kick things off?
Yeah, well, absolutely. It's now time for the week ahead. Aaron and I will break down what is ahead for this week in Laker sports. Aaron, I'm just going to start it off right here for some baseball. I mean, why not? Taking a look at this Lakers baseball team, they'll open up SUNYAC play this Saturday and Sunday against the New Paltz Hawks. The three-game set was originally supposed to be played at home, but it was moved to a neutral site in Endwell, New York. The Lakers will still be the home team for all three games. Aaron, what's it going to take for the Lakers to get off to a strong start in conference play?
If they're going to Binghamton, why not just go to Mirabito Stadium, right? Home of the Binghamton Rumble Ponies and future New York Mets stars, Francisco Alvarez, Ronnie Mauricio, and Brett Beatty. No, I'm kidding.
I literally cannot roll my eyes harder that you brought that up.
I had to get it in, folks. But no, this is the perfect team for them to start out against in SUNYAC play. SUNYAC baseball conference is a lot tougher this year. You've got Cortland, who's currently the number 11 team in the country. These are the two games they're going to play this week. They also have a game against St. John Fisher coming up, but let's focus on New Paltz. They've won their last 12 against New Paltz. They've won by at least 3 runs against New Paltz. and they're 13 and 14 on the road against New Paltz. So that comes into factor here when you have a game being moved to a neutral site. But this is a good team for them to start off against. They're 42 and 18 all time against New Paltz. This is a game you can win. These are 3 games that you can win. You can arguably sweep.
Right.
It's tough to beat it 3 times, but you can arguably sweep and get off SUNY Ag Play to a banger start.
It is tough to beat a team 3 times. And this is a team that last year they played them on the road, swept a doubleheader, 24-12 in a 9-inning game, an 11-3 in a 6-inning game. The pitching for New Paltz really hasn't gotten that much better. I'd expect this offense to go off and have a very good 2 days. The one thing that I'm interested to see, 3-game set, their first of the year. They're playing 3 games in 2 days. I'll be interested to see how the pitching staff handles themselves, because right now, outside of Kieran Finnegan, we really haven't seen this Oswego pitching staff get into a groove yet. So I'm interested to see how Coach Landers handles that, whether he has a shorter leash with everyone other than Finnegan, or whether he just lets guys like Anthony Van Fossen, who has been successful in the past but has struggled out of the gate, if they'll just let him roll.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see for sure, especially at a neutral site. All right, let's stick with the Diamond, but let's shorten the game by 2 innings for some softball. The Lakers, they have a flurry of games this week, including their first 2 conference matchups of the season. This weekend, they will travel to Buffalo to take on the Buffalo State Bengals in a doubleheader on Saturday, before traveling to Fredonia to take on the Blue Devils on Monday. Then finally Tuesday, they will wrap up against Hamilton College in Clinton, New York for an out-of-conference matchup. Brian, the Lakers are busy bees this week.
Absolutely, and holy mackerel, they're going to be racking up the miles on those bus trips. My goodness, 6 road games in a matter of 4 days for this Lakers squad. But we look at this Buffalo State and Fredonia squad, another SUNY opener, no games this past week. So we're essentially saying the same thing we said last week. We're interested to see if anyone other than Fiona Higgins and any on the pitching and anyone in the batter's box outside of Zoe Menig can step up. You take a look at what these 3 teams do. Fredonia and Buff State, they're letting some runs up. We'll have to see if the Oswego offense can start getting going. Hamilton, they're a little bit stingier. But once again, my focus is going to be on the pitching. Fiona Higgins has been absolutely phenomenal so far this year, but you're playing doubleheaders. That's what you do in conference. In order to win these games, you got to find a way to get pitching outside of Fiona Higgins. So we'll have to see if anyone can step up this week.
Yeah, Gabriella Rivers is keeping these girls in tip-top shape with this schedule. It is certainly a lot of softball to be played in a certain amount of time. The Lakers have struggled a bit this year to start the season, but now SUNY Ag Play starting up, this is a good time for them to get going. You talked about Fiona Higgins and how, everybody outside the pitching needs to be better. Zoe Menig is the only one hitting for the Oswego State offense right now. You need more people. Baseball's not a game where baseball and softball aren't games where Zoe Menig can bat every single time. LeBron James can take as many shots as he wants. Zoe Menig is restricted to once every 9 times.
Absolutely true. Moving to the lacrosse field now. The men's team, they'll be in action twice this week. They open SUNY Ag Play against the old rivals, the Plattsburgh Cardinals, on the road this Saturday before returning home to face off with the Potsdam Bears in a matchup from this past Sunday's postponement. Aaron, the Lakers haven't won in the SUNY Ag since 2019. Will that change this weekend?
We talked about last week how they were going up against Potsdam. It was a big game. They need to get their first SUNY Ag win since 2019, since April of 2019, and then they didn't end up playing.
Right.
So now they have a chance to go up against the Plattsburgh Cardinals, who they haven't beaten since 2009, and they have a chance to get their first SUNY Ag win in 3 years, their first SUNY Ag win of the year. They're off to a great start so far this year at 5-2. And you look at what Plattsburgh is, what they've done in the past against Plattsburgh and Potsdam. But Plattsburgh right now, they're 2-6. They're off to a pretty bit of a slow start here. The Lakers, this is a really good opportunity to not only get 1 win, but to get 2 wins, a win against their rivals in Plattsburgh and a win against the Potsdam Bears on Tuesday.
Yeah, you know what I'm interested to see with these 2 games from the Lakers? I'm interested to see what we get out of Ryan Eccles this week, right? 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago when they played Utica, the last time they came out, Ryan Eccles went off, and it was the Weston Gray and Ryan Eccles show, and they were very, very good. That was his breakout game, though. I'll be interested to see whether Eccles can keep it up, because that's what the Lakers need. We saw last year when it's just Weston Gray and not much of a supporting cast, this team struggles to play in the conference. Now, they didn't play these 2 teams last year. Let's keep that in mind. But if Ryan Eccles and the rest of this Lakers squad can't help out Weston Gray, they're going to struggle to win games because teams know that Weston Gray is a pretty darn good player.
Absolutely. We are going to take a quick break. But don't go anywhere, because when we come back, Jake Johnson will join us with the most exciting segment in WTOP 10 shows, Lakers Showdown. Plus, we must acknowledge a challenge presented to us. You're watching Laker Connections on WTOP 10.
This job looks perfect. It says you need a high school diploma. You've got one of those, right?
Skip the drama. Get your diploma.
I got that.
Find free adult education classes at finishyourdiploma.org.
Major Discussions is the new show that explores the stories of students right here on campus. I personally came here to SUNY Oswego for the broadcasting program because I love to hear people's stories and to do work just like this.
What's up? What's the haps? What's poppin'? Jake Johnson back in the hot seat for the best segment WTOP 10 has to offer. It is time for Lakers Showdown. Can we cue the Western music, Lakers Showdown?
It's a good idea.
You know what? Never mind.
Good
Just
idea.
kidding.
Jake, cue that. No, Jake, do that. The Western music.
I will ask Brian and Aaron 3 questions. They have the chance to debate, and I will choose whoever I think has the best answers. We're going to get it started with the first question. So, guys, the Oswego State baseball team starts SUNYAC play on Saturday against SUNY New Paltz. The Lakers will play 18 SUNYAC games this year. And in recent years, they've been able to run through the conference, but they also have the number 8 team in the country, the Cortland Red Dragons, in the SUNYAC. So my question to both of you is, I'm setting an over-under at 13.5. Brian, I'm going to let you start. Do you take the over or the under on 13.5?
You know, I'm going to go with the under, unfortunately. There are 18 games in conference play, right? 6 3-game sets. I really think the Lakers are going to be pushing that. I have them at 13-5, however. This is a good squad, but you look at the schedule. It's Cortland for 3 games. That's a scary idea. The closest thing that we can compare them to is Salisbury. They went 1-2 against Salisbury. That's really what. Why are you throwing things at me? This is rude. They went 1-2 against Salisbury. You also talk about going up against Brockport. It's a Brockport team for 3. They're 14-2 right now on a 12-game winning streak. That is a red-hot lineup, and I know no one's going to live up to what Ryan Enos is doing right now. But that Brockport lineup is good. And outside of Kieran,
all right, I got to
we
get in
haven't
here.
seen
So
much
here we
from the
go.
Oswego pitching
Even
staff.
look at that. They've won 14 games in the SUNYAC the last 2 years. They won 12 back in 2018. This team is absolutely built different right now. They're on a different level this year. They keep rising up the national rankings. They've beaten a ton of ranked teams down in Florida so far this year, including the number 1 team in the country in Salisbury, the number 7 team in the country in Rowan University. They are on a different level right now. I am definitely taking the over. They're right up there. Ow, they're right up there. All
right. Before any more papers are thrown, I'm going to go with Aaron because I think this baseball team is just that good, and I really think that they're going to be able to get over that number of 13.5.
Put it up.
The Oswego State softball team will be back in action for 6 games. Yeah, you heard that right. 6 games. They're going to be all on the road. Fredonia, Buffalo State, and Hamilton College. Star hitter Zoe Medic is currently batting .387 on the year. She has 2 doubles, a home run, and 4 RBIs. Now, .387, that's an outlandish number. But to be 11 games through the year already and have that average is crazy. My question to you guys is, do you think she's going to keep up that pace and finish the year with a batting average of .333 or higher? Aaron, you start.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the under, and that's just because, well, first off, they're about to play a lot of games in a short amount of time just this coming week. But SUNYAC play is coming up, so she's going to start seeing a lot of teams that are familiar and that are going to know how to pitch her extremely well. Plus, the SUNYAC softball conference is very tough with teams like Geneseo, with teams like Cortland. So, again, I think it's going to go a little bit down. You see her numbers right there. She is absolutely mashing right now. She's going to be great the entire season, 323, 325. But again, you know, it's tough to keep up this level of play for this long. So I think it's going to be a little bit tough for her to do that, especially with SUNYAC play coming up.
Aaron, you want to talk about SUNYAC play? Who'd they play last year? Mostly SUNYAC teams, right? Can I get a confirmation from you guys about that?
I can agree.
Guess what she hit last year?
How? I actually don't know.
403.
Oh, really?
Yes, she was ridiculously good. Second team all SUNYAC. Ridiculous. This is an easy over. Unbelievably easy pick for me. The best hitter on the team on a 6-game hitting streak. Ton of confidence when she steps into that batter's box.
But she's playing more games this year.
Yes, but she hit 403 last year. You're asking for a 70-point decrease?
Come on. Well, I'm with Brian here. I mean, come on. She knows these SUNYAC pitchers. She knows how to hit them. She's going to mash.
He's still
the rest
throwing
of the
things at me.
All right, final question for you guys. The Oswego State men's lacrosse team is facing off in the whiteout matches against SUNY Plattsburgh and SUNY Potsdam on Saturday and Tuesday. The Lakers have lost their last 10 against Plattsburgh, but have won their last 4 against Potsdam. So the final question to you guys is, will this trend continue or change? Are the Lakers going to flip the script and defeat the Cardinals, or will Potsdam come into town? Can they defeat the Lake Show? Brian, you start with the final question. No, you went second.
Did you read the teleprompter? You know how this show works? Yeah, I think the streak continues, right? This Plattsburgh team, yes, they've gotten off to a slow start, but you look at their record at 2-6, and you look at some of the teams that they've lost to. Aaron's distracting me. This is not fun. They lost to Clarkson, who's a really good team. They lost to Union, who's also very good. Meanwhile, I think this Potsdam team, we saw it earlier, they turn the ball over a lot. The Lakers are going to get a lot of chances to score on the offensive end because they're going to have the ball a lot. You're going to get a lot of paper thrown at you. I'm done.
All right, here we go.
This is ridiculous.
The trend ends. It is time for the Oswego State Lakers to defeat the Plattsburgh Cardinals and, of course, continue their streak against Potsdam. And here's why. Potsdam obviously not off to a great start so far this year. Plattsburgh is 2-6 to start the year. They are not off to a good start. They're barely scoring 10 goals a game. They've played some really bad teams up to this point. One of their wins is against SUNY Canton. Oswego is 5-2. They look red hot. They look more comfortable than ever. Sean Eccles at the helm of this team looks like he has them playing.
Yeah, that's all cool and fine, Aaron, but you know, you lost the point before you even got to debating. You started the paper throwing, just the immaturity. You lost before you even argued. You lost it. Brian wins another round of Lakers Showdown.
All right, here we go. Go for it.
All right, it's so stupid. All right, the Sports Talk feud continues as last Tuesday they challenged us to a basketball game. Gotta be honest, I don't think they want this smoke. We've put together a few depictions of what this game is possibly going to look like. Let's get those up on the screen. Troy and Lily. There you go. There you go.
Look at Garrett Chan is getting dunked on.
I am just doing I'm doing an under the legs dunk move. Gross is just the flying Hawaiian. Jared, he's back there getting some big old dunks. And so obviously, Sports Talk. If we get the camera back on me, please. If we get the camera back on me, please.
We also
forgot about this meme.
Yep.
I forgot about this meme.
Got to keep up with the trends.
We got to keep up with the trends, so there you go. So Sports Shop Talk, we obviously accept your challenge.
Absolutely. We look forward to it. Well, folks, that's really all the time we have here today. Thank you so much for watching. For Aaron, Jake, Mike in the back.
Where's Garrett Chan? I haven't seen him.
Thank you for watching No Sports this weekend. So we'll see you next week on Laker Connections.